Welcome to the journey. This is your first episode and my first interview with Victor Luna. What's up with the journey? So obviously, this is my first one. I'm eventually gonna get it right? But this is a place where real ambition meets real stories. Today's guest is different. It's somebody I've known for a long time. Since the music days, before he was flipping real estate, when he was flipping anything he could get his hands on. But I knew him when it was Sick Vic, Ultra A-OK, and somebody I grew up admiring since a kid. Before the suits and ties, before the wins, back then when there was a notebook probably he had full of lyrics, he was doing a lot of local shows, booking some artists with his event business, probably late night studio sessions, and now he has the keys in his hands, literally, keys to his life. Deals on the table and properties getting flipped. While most people still talk about it, he's actually taking action. But I bet the road wasn't smooth. Who knows, he probably hit rock bottom, took some side gigs, just to be able to build what he has now and still continue building. But that's what the journey is about. And Victor Luna himself, he is building. So I want to bring you guys into this episode and let's have him tell you his side of the story of what he's building. And hopefully 3 to 5 years from now, we can sit down right across from each other in my studio or doing this like this again. And we can sit here and get an update on Victor, where he's at with his life. Welcome to the journey. Like I said, I already gave an intro for my man Victor, and we're really gonna start from the beginning. And I wanna go way, way, way back a couple years. I know I'm making him sound old, but he's still young. But we're gonna go back to when he was a kid, and I wanna ask you, who were you when you were a kid, Victor?
Man, that's a good question. That's something I don't really even think about, but I could say I was somebody who was very interested in everything. So I gravitated towards the streets. I gravitated towards education. I gravitated towards music. I grew up in Brooklyn, so you have those influences all around you. I ran around a lot. I got a lot of freedom when I was young, so it's not like I ever felt any restriction. For clarity, I moved to Pennsylvania when I was 16. So I got most of my adolescence out the way in New York City. So I went to high school in New York, and was different from there in Pennsylvania is when you go to high school in New York, you're able to kind of go anywhere in the city. So this is really going to age me, but I remember in junior high school, they'd give you this big book, and in this big book, they had all the high schools in the city, and it'd say their graduation rate, all the reasons that you should go to that school, what kind of specialties they had, XYZ. I had a high school right across the street from where I live, and I chose a high school in Jamaica, Queens, which is an hour and some change ride from my house. So obviously, my parents weren't taking me there. I lived with my grandparents. My grandfather took me the first day to school, but after that, I was on my own. I had my Metro card. I had to wake up at 6:30 in the morning to get to school for 8. Jump on the L train, transfer to L train to Broadway Junction, go all the way, transfer to the J train to the last stop. With all these grown adults going to work, some people going to school. So just in that one little instance of the day, just getting to school was a whole world. You know what I'm saying? That most people probably can't experience unless you're from New York City. Only New York City kids can understand what I'm talking about. Most people around the country wouldn't. It's like you don't even think about sending your 14-year-old down the street to go to the store. Imagine sending them an hour away to go to school amongst the general population. And New York City is known for being a crazy city. So that in itself kind of molded my mind in a different way than that most people would have, right? So I've seen everything from the good, the bad, the ugly, and that's part of my journey. So as a kid, I'd say again, to reiterate, interested in everything, just really trying to find my way. And yeah, that's a great question because I've never really thought about it that deep. But those are some of the things that I could think of as I think of it right at this moment.
So what made you, going off of that, what made you stay in Pennsylvania? If you
What made me stay in
came,
Pennsylvania?
yeah, if
Oh,
you came,
so I truly grew up in New York City.
yeah,
When I was 16, I lived with my grandparents from the time that I was about 10 till about 16. So all that time I was living with my grandparents in New York City. Again, with a lot of freedom comes a lot of responsibility that I didn't have. My grandparents tried their best, but when you're a teenage kid, especially a boy, or growing into a man, you feel like you have more authority than you should have. And that's when it's important to have strong father figures in your life, right? And my grandparents, they're great. Like my grandmother's great. My grandfather's excellent father figure. But at the end of the day, they're on the older side. My grandfather was working. My grandmother can't really control the child. So with that said, that freedom allowed me to do things that probably weren't best for my future. Even though at that time I wasn't thinking that way, but I mean, at 14, cutting school, we would go into third period, making sure that our attendance was marked, and then we'd leave school. I kind of got into the wrong crowd. See, when I was younger, my grades were always sharp. I was always like a 90 plus kid. But when I was in high school, I got exposed to so much, had a lot of good friends that were into different things. So that kind of threw me off, right? It was like, it's just too much freedom for a 14-year-old at once, right? And I'll answer your question of why I ended up staying in Pennsylvania based off that. So it got to the point where I was barely showing up to school. I was flunking. Actually, my sophomore year, I kind of dropped out. I stopped going to school. And so my parents came from the Dominican Republic. That's where they were living. And they moved into my grandma's house. My dad came with the plan that he was going to move to Pennsylvania because I have a little sister and he didn't want to raise her in New York City. He already saw what was going on with me, and he lived in New York City all his life, a good portion of his life too. He raised other children. I'm actually the youngest boy in my immediate family, right? So, and then my sister's the youngest of us 6, right? And so he's already had all kind of taste for what raising kids would be like in New York City, and I don't think he felt like he had the best luck out there. So he had made the decision early on from when he came to the Dominican Republic along with my mother. They wanted to move to Pennsylvania. And when they came, they mentioned that to me, and I was all the way against it. And I really did have the option because my grandparents weren't moving to Pennsylvania at the time. They decided that they were going to stay there in New York. New York is all they know. My grandfather was definitely the kind of guy that said, hey, I'm never leaving New York City, right? And so I dropped out of high school, 10th grade, and my parents decided to move to Pennsylvania. I came with them just to visit, and I was like, oh, this is not that bad, right? And then I don't know what clicked. Something clicked for me, and it was like, yo, like if I stay here, I just saw the path. I'm like, yo, I'm not gonna graduate high school because I had already dropped out. I had missed so many classes. I was behind, and it wasn't because of my smarts. It was just the things that I was surrounded by and the things that I didn't want to do and the things that I wanted to do. And then I said, you know what, like I need a new fresh start because I felt like I couldn't get back on track out there. And I just took that as an opportunity. I don't know why. I said, you know what, let me just move in with my parents. And that's what I did. And so I moved to Pennsylvania, and it was a fresh start. I thought it was going to be, quite frankly, all like white people out here, and then it ended up being like a nice mix, and it was cool. But it still wasn't New York. Like it wasn't like everybody still had the mindset of at least graduating high school. Like most of the people that I knew here wasn't like frequently cutting classes or like, yeah, the same thing still happened to a certain degree. People were still doing some of the stuff that was going on out there, but it's just not as amplified. I mean, and what else do you do? Like if you don't go to school here in Pennsylvania, you stay home. I mean, you get what I'm saying? Where in New York City, you don't go to school, like you go to the beach. There's so much stuff to do. So there was a lot less distractions out here. And so I went through I started my sophomore year, mid-sophomore year, because I didn't go to school all of the fall in New York. So I started fresh here in January. And Did my sophomore year, went good. Junior year went good. And then I was like, all right, I did good. And then I decided that I want to go to college. So I went to a community college. And in the midst of being in high school, I met some of my really good friends who I call my brothers now, and we started making music. And I started making music at about 17. I've always been interested in music. I started making music, truly making music at 17. My boy JP, Jonathan Eric, JPZ Eats on Facebook. He's got this vlog going on, so shout out to him. But Jonathan Eric, who I frequently make music with, he had a studio out here, and he had this record called Coolin'. Everybody knew him. He was definitely one of the most popular people in the area, not only for music, but just for being who he is. And so out of being friends with him, he was one of the first real friends that I made out here. He started bringing his studio to my house, and then I started getting interested in the craft and started creating stuff, and then we started creating music together. And it's like, I still had my relationships in New York, right? But now I had built some relationships here in Pennsylvania, and I still had the ability to go to New York. So I would still go to New York, every few weeks. I'd work jobs here, like Burger King, all kinds of jobs or whatever, just to make some money so I can spend some weekends out there. But then I kind of really got wrapped into the Pennsylvania life with the friends that I had here. And once I started making music, it really didn't matter where I lived, right? Because the way I saw it was, hey, I can, with my music, if I have enough money, I can pretty much go anywhere, right? New York was only 2 hours away. I just needed a ride. And so, like I said, I got into music. I graduated high school. I got into college. I did my 2-year degree. And then I really started focusing up on music. And for me, it just allowed me to go anywhere in the country. So it kind of didn't even go through my mind of moving back to New York, especially considering the cost of living in New York, right? So I think I got kind of comfortable here and realized that I could go anywhere from here if I made this my home base.
Damn. That really sounds good, man. And I'm glad you brought up the music, because we both remember the music day. I remember you doing your thing,
right?
Throwing those shows at Community Park and stuff like that.
Right.
So what did that music grind teach you? Staying in Pennsylvania and realizing, like, yo, with this event business that you mentioned, I could go anywhere and I could do my own shows. What did that, just the music grind, teach you?
So I can give a big backstory. I don't know how quick you want to go about it, if you want to get deep into it. So with the music, we had, first of all, we were creating, and we got invited to do some shows, local artists. We would open up for them. And then once we graduated high school, we really got serious into it. And that means we had some investments into going into studios. We would drive to New York City just to record our music. We would do the late night shift, because we could get the studio really cheap if we booked it from like 12 a.m. to like 5 a.m. because nobody really, that's a super late night shift. So we'd be in New York, we'd be driving to New York City at 10. We'd get in the studio, record our music. Then we'd drive back from New York City at like 4 or 5 in the morning. We didn't have enough money to get a hotel, so we'd literally be driving middle of the night to get back here. And so that just kind of I say that to kind of show how serious we were about it. We started releasing music, and as you said, we started putting shows together. So initially, like, our first show that we did was here in Hazleton. We put together something in Community Park. We made it a free show. We wanted to get all of our friends to come out and actually see us perform, because we got sick of opening for folks. And then what ended up happening with that went well. And then we had some other friends who had land in the area, and we would put together like these like real underground country wood shows. Like, there's this place called Happy Land, where my boy, he just had this few acres of land that his family had, and they would just throw parties there. And we made this makeshift stage, and we performed there several times. It was really good. And after that, we started taking things even more serious. We started putting out videos, and we started gaining some type of popularity and notoriety, especially around the area, as like the rappers, like me, Jonathan Eric, Showa. Like, there were other people that were making music, and not taking any credit away from them. They were doing their thing. But I think, like, when you mentioned our name, when you mentioned music, those are the people we were like really top of mind. Like, we did guerrilla marketing, like where I would get all my mixtapes that we would put out digitally. At the time, people still had cars that had CDs. So to date me again, this was like 10 years ago. So people still were using CDs at the time. And so I remember like our first mixtapes, I would go and I would print the mixtapes out, and I wouldn't even charge people for them. I legit just give them out, give them out on the streets, really, really touching people. And we'd put posters up everywhere. So we were doing a lot of guerrilla marketing. And then we started seeing opportunities to perform outside of the area and open up for bigger acts. Because I started doing research into that. Jonathan started doing research into that. And we really wanted to figure out ways to like take things to the next level. And so we did stuff like open up for Lil Bibby. We opened up for Lil Uzi several times, Lil Yachty. And during that time, specifically one show when we did open up for Lil Yachty, we went out to Detroit. And when we went to Detroit, we went there, the people that were throwing the show were like 17. And so I'm looking at them like, yo, who are these kids? Like, these just young kids in the middle of Detroit, putting a show together. We performed. The people out there loved us. But my mind was already business minded. Now, to give you a little even more background, if you go listen to my music, you'll understand how we were able to do some of the things that we can do. I can't really talk about it on a podcast, but like we were really we were able to invest in ourselves in ways that most people can't. If you listen to the music, you'll understand where I'm coming from and how I was able to get some of these funds. But when we were out there, I was looking, I'm like, yo, how are these kids getting the money to put together this show? Like, I'm getting money. I was already getting money. I already had some money that I could use. And I was like, well, that's where the entrepreneurial mindset came from, right? From being outside, from being in the streets already, right? So I'm like, yo, they're hustling these tickets out. I started doing math. I'm like, yo, first of all, for us to open up, they required us to sell 50 tickets. Well, we don't have a fan base in Detroit. So what do we have to do to get the tickets? What I would do is I say, F it, I'll pony up the money for the 50 tickets, right? Because I didn't care about necessarily selling the tickets. I didn't want to make the money. I had money. My main focus was performing in front of this new fan base so that we could eventually be able to grab some of those some of those fans and bring them onto our music catalog, right? So I'd pay for those tickets, boom, whenever we had to open up and that's the norm. So the norm would be whenever you had to open up for these artists, you had to sell tickets because you're the opening act. And we would just pay for those tickets. So in this Detroit show, I realized, okay, we pay for 50 tickets, whatever the tickets cost, right? There were like 2 or 3 other openers who paid for 50 who sold their tickets. They were local to Detroit, so they were fine. And then I looked at the crowd. They sold out the show. There was probably like 1,600 people there. And I was thinking, how much could Yachty be charging them? And I'm like, yo, all right, yeah, they ponied up a lot of money to put this together, but I think they made a lot of money tonight. And so they were really cool. After the show, they really liked what we did, and I talked to them about it. And I was like, hey, like, what's all these costs that you guys did? And they kind of broke down some of the stuff they did. Now, the difference between them and myself was they came from money. So like I had money, but they came from money. Like their parents were hedge fund people. You talk to them, they were already riding around in like high class Benzes, year Benzes, and they were 17. Sure. So these were kids with money who just, it's great. They thought of an idea for themselves, like, hey, Dad, let me borrow XYZ so that I can do this. That's phenomenal thinking. Most kids aren't doing that when they have money, and they did something really cool. So then fast forward, we did a show with Lil Bibby out in New York City, and we did the same thing. It was the same kind of situation where we paid for tickets. But at that particular show, I met someone who eventually became my partner. His name is JY. He actually runs Monarch Music now, which is a whole label. They have tons of people under them. But we talked, and after the show, I was like, hey, look, the truth of the matter is I've been doing this for a while. I see what's going on. You're like me. You look like me. That was the first time I seen somebody who looked like me, who I put a show together. And it was in New York City, and it wasn't as big as the ones we did before, but it was still a big deal. And this was when Lil Baby was kind of lit. And I spoke to him. I was like, yo, like, I have the funds. Like, I want to put together a show. I want to do this in Pennsylvania. And the idea that I had was, hey, East Stroudsburg is a college. There's a theater over there. And I've been to 2 shows there, but they don't put too many hip hop shows out there. And I know there's a thirst for it. There's a demand for it. And I talked to him about it. And long story short, we ended up talking weeks after, and we came up with some plans, and we put together a show. I told him the idea. I was like, he had some acts that he was thinking, and I was like, yo, and they were all smaller. They weren't small, but they were small, like Lil Bibby. Yeah. At the time, I guess you could say G Herbo, who's lit now, but at the time they weren't who they are now, right? And at the time, the person who was lit was like, this was like 2017. It was like Lil Uzi. So I was like, yo, let's do Lil Uzi. And he was like, yo, Lil Uzi, like, that's a lot of bread. I was like, yo, trust me, like, I could make it happen. And lo and behold, we got Lil Uzi. We went out and we got the cost for Lil Uzi, and it was 40 grand. So we had to pony up 40 grand, and I had it. So it was 40 grand to put that show together. And then plus, you know, we needed 20 for the venue. I made the connection with the venue. I got in touch with them, 20 grand for the venue. So, and then marketing costs, right? So like that was like $5,000 to $10,000 in marketing costs. So in total, we had to spend $70,000. And like that dude that I had just met was like incredibly surprised, because like there's not too many people you could talk to, especially at that age, that have 70 grand that's willing to take that risk on themselves. And the reason that I was willing to take that risk was because, like I said, we were already doing the shows opening up for people, and we were paying for tickets to perform, and we weren't making any money off those tickets, right? So in my head, I'm like, yo, why don't I put the show together, make money, and still get the end goal of performing in front of these crowds, right? And that was my mentality. And so lo and behold, we did the Uzi thing. He was surprised. And with that, to answer some of your question, I know your main question was, what did it teach me? When I put that show together, that was one of the first times, besides what I was already doing at that time, that I risked that much money. So when you're talking about, it's not like I can say, yo, the show's doing bad. Yo, Uzi, can you return $40,000 to me? That's not how things work. I can't call the venue and say, yo, the show's doing bad. Yo, I need my money back. You're putting your money up. You have to either execute or you're gonna take your L. And that's the way I saw that. So I took matters into my own hand. He helped me a lot with the digital marketing because he was out in New York City and he had some experience, but I wasn't relying on that digital marketing because, one, with all due respect to him, I know that he had every good intention for the show to be successful. But if the show lost money, it didn't matter to him, right? Like, only the people who invest their own money can care about it in a way that it rules their life, right? When it's not your money, I don't care what no one says. You can be a steward. You can be a steward as much as you want, but when it's your money versus somebody else's money, there's gonna be a different type of love and effort that you're gonna have behind it. So when it was my money that I put up, I was like, yo, this shit gotta go. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It gotta go. I gotta make this money back, and I knew I had to make a significant amount of bread back. So the venue holds 1,800 people. I knew that I did tiers. So on average, the tickets were about $50, which was high. It was expensive. The venue hadn't sold $40 tickets ever for a hip hop show. So everything that I was doing was like completely out of the norm for the area. They had never booked an artist like Lil Uzi, who was basically a superstar at the time. This was Money Longer time. So if he wasn't a superstar, he was like right on the cusp of being a superstar.
He was getting to that stage.
He was getting there.
In a college place, everybody knew Lil.
Yeah, in the college place, it was like when people heard that we were bringing Lil Uzi, like their jaws dropped. Like and so I knew that to get $65,000, right? I needed to sell at least I needed to get at least 1,300 people in there on average, right? So the venue held 1,800 people. So that means 500 people are my profit, $1,300 is my break even. That's thinking back, that's a really risky show, right? Like you gotta get 75% sold.
Yeah, I was just thinking that you really had to sell over 75% to even start looking at some sort of profit. To be able to at least like breathe and be like, okay, I broke even. This was my first one. At least broke even. now I know what I got to do for the next one. But that's how I go to.
Yeah, super risky, bro. But and it wasn't even, what's cool about it was, and what allowed me the freedom to do it was, the money wasn't like, the money was a big deal for me. I needed to make that money back, right? That's a lot of my own money. But also, one of the most important things for me was the fact that I knew that us performing in front of this act would like separate us from most people, right? So I wanted to do it just off the strength of having our brand on there, because that was a big thing. Art of Coolin presents Lil Uzi. I mean, you can see the poster right there, right? Art of Coolin presents Lil Uzi, right? So that was a big deal for me to put us in the forefront. So what I did was, when I realized, yeah, I got this much invested, I said, screw it. And I put my own boots on the ground. I got my team together. I was like, yo, we got the show together. We got to do the XYZ. And I was hitting I printed so many flyers, hitting these streets. My schedule was, I wanted to hit 5 colleges every week. So I'd spend a day at each college. And if there was smaller colleges nearby and smaller high schools, like I would spend my day hitting those places. So like I'd start, like, say, for example, on a Monday, I'd go to East Stroudsburg, right? And I'd be there for at least 11 a.m. because you can't be there from the morning, from the very morning. You gotta time it where the kids are actually moving around, right? Where they're switching classes. So I started learning some of the schedules where like most classes ended and stuff like that. So it'd be around 11, 12, I'd hit East Stroudsburg, right? Boom. And I'd go there slammed with flyers. I picked up a few of the kids that were there doing other stuff, and I'd be like, hey, I'll pay you to just run around with me. You guys take this section, I'll take this section. Let's give out these flyers. Yeah. And we started, and then I remember, it sounds like I'm old, but I'm 32. So in 2017, I would have been, that's 8 years ago. So I would have been something like 24, right? Yeah. So I'm still, I look relatively young. So at 24, I looked even relatively younger, right? So I 24 is still college age for some people. So I still look college age, and I was in college myself. I was in Penn State because I did things a little bit later. But anyway, I blended in, so that allowed me to go into all the school, all the buildings, like where they would eat lunch. Like nobody blinked an eye when I would walk in there. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. I would just give out flyers out there. I'd go to the parties. If I knew of any parties, I'd go to the parties, give out flyers there. And so this thing picked up steam really quickly. I'd go there. I'd go all the way out to Allentown, because I believed that people would be willing to travel an hour. I mean, people were going to New York City to go to big shows, right? People were going to Philadelphia. So I felt like people would travel an hour to East Stroudsburg to come see an act this big. So I'd go to Allentown. I'd go to Easton. I did Penn State, Hazleton. I'd even go up to Bloomsburg. All the colleges that were near me I made sure that they knew about this show. And that's one of the things that it taught me. Is like, yo, you got to take your destiny into your own hands, right? Because if I just sat there and said, yo, my boy in New York City is doing digital marketing, making sure that all the tickets get sold, I don't know what the show would have done. You get what I'm saying? But I do know that we sold out. You know what I mean? And I have to attest a big part of that to people seeing this in person. You get what I'm saying? Me touching them, because I wouldn't go there one time. I'd go there once a week, but this was for weeks on end. So it's not like they seen this flyer one time. They'd see this for 6 weeks straight. I had that kind of schedule. So they'd see me. People would be like, yo, I already got the flyer. I'd be like, yo, take it again. You get what I'm saying? So they'd see it, Yeah. And they had no choice but to do it, to the point where I remember the day of the show, we only had like 1,100 tickets sold, right? And I wasn't worried, because the way I saw it was like, yo, people are going to line up, right? If 1,100 tickets sold up to the day of the show, that means that this is the place to be. You get what I'm saying? So when you tell somebody, yo, I'm going to the Uzi show, and you gotta, your friend tells you, yo, you want to come? You're going to go buy your ticket, especially the day of. And then we started doing flash sales. And long story short, we worked that show so hard that it's sold out. We did well. We made money. I made a good amount of money on that show. And funny enough, the whole reason we did it was to perform. And here's a mistake that I made. So I also did the ticket thing where I also got like a few opening acts, right? I had 2 of them do tickets, but then I wanted to be different from everyone else, and I wanted to put opening acts that I truly believed in, right? So like everybody who opened up on that show were artists that I truly liked and I thought meant that aesthetic. Well, because I was an artist, I was pro artist. I was more on the artist side than I was business side in that sense. And so we had like 8 openers, right? Which if you think about it, 8 openers are like 10 minutes a pop. That's like an hour and a half of just straight openers.
Yeah.
And like everybody, you know, that just kind of like fatiguing to the ear. Like people came to see Uzi, they ain't came to see Don Snow from East Stroudsburg, right?
Yes.
So I didn't open up at the beginning. I said, you know what, I want to go right before Uzi just to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we're already fatigued, bro. So we got on that stage and they were like, yo, what the F? We want Uzi. They started throwing quarters at us, bro. We got booed off the stage, bro. It was crazy. It was crazy. And I don't think it had anything to do with us specifically.
Yeah.
Real talk. Like it had nothing to do with the music. It had nothing to do with like our stage presence, who we were, but everything to do with the people being fatigued because they want to see Uzi. So there's a lesson in that, right? So it's like, don't overstay your welcome. And with like, even if it's not you personally, like just don't overstay and try to do too much because some people get tired of that shit and they'll just walk away.
Yeah.
So that's the story of my first show. That gives you some of the lessons that I learned, and like we took that into every show after that. We took those lessons and we were able to make significant money, more money than I had ever been able to put in a bank account. You get what I'm saying? So that allowed me to transition into being able to do real estate, which is what I do now.
Yeah. So continuing with that and bouncing off of that, what were you chasing back then? What exactly?
For that chasing?
Yeah.
I was chasing my music career. Like, so my goal, everything in life for me was about music. Like, I didn't have any children. I was young. I was 24, 25, 26, 22, you know what I mean? Really, really mid-20s. And the only thing, I was still in college. I was living on my own. I had my studio set up at home. I stopped having to go to New York City. I was making money. I was very comfortable, making more money than sometimes I've made today, right? So I was making significant money. But so my goal was to just influx that money into my music career and just, I really had the eyes of trying to become a superstar at the time. Like I was like, yo, we can do it. Like we got the music. We can make it happen. And that became my main goal. And so that's what I was hustling for.
Do you think the music laid the foundation for what you're doing now?
Yeah, of course, because first of all, I wouldn't be if I didn't take all those risks and do all those things that I did to try to make it in music. Then even from the mindset, not even from the mindset position, from the financial position, I wouldn't have been able to start, right? Like in the same way. Maybe it would have clicked in a different way. Maybe I would have had a job. Maybe I would have had something else. But this specific journey that I'm on right now would not have clicked the same way. My journey is very unique in a sense where like most people got to go like put 3.5% down, this, that, that. I bought my first house cash. You get what I'm saying? Like I rehabbed my first house cash, you know, like money, cold hard cash, one after another. You get what I'm saying? I wouldn't have been doing that if music wasn't my goal, right? Because the things that I did to be able to be successful in music are what allowed me to be able to transition and get into real estate. It would have been a whole different game. I don't even know how I would have started. I don't even know if I would have been in it.
Like Kanye said, I guess we'll never know, right?
Guess we'll never know. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Guess we'll never know. So we're going to go into the real estate stuff and finishing off with the music stuff.
Sure.
Do you consider your music, the time period, do you consider it successful? And do you consider that career successful? And is that career over with?
I do consider it successful because I did things in that specific time period that we were just talking about that like most people don't get to experience ever in their lives. Like it's so cool. I've lived so many lives already. You get what I'm saying? Like I'm 32 and I feel like I've lived like at least 10 lives. And people just say that as a figure of speech, but I really have, bro. Like I've been so many, I've been in, there's so many modes of myself that have existed. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's like, people say, oh, don't change this, and you always change. You become better versions of yourself. So there's so many different modes of myself that have been created, that have just evolutionized who I am today. And so I think it was successful. I believe it was successful. I mean, I had times that we talk about, like, we were just working here in the studio 2 nights ago with my producer, who was like, and we were talking about some of the times we've had, and we were sitting here rolling, laughing. Like we were talking about how we're gonna laugh about this in the next 50 years. There's memories that you can't, like, all the money in the world can't buy. You get what I'm saying? Like, so sometimes, like, some people view success as money, sometimes, but the real success and everything is the experience, right? Like it's what you did, all the thing, all the journey that you went through during that time period. That's what I view as a success. I mean, if you told me that I put out, and some people might look at it different, but if you told me that I put out 50 songs, right, and I just stood in my basement and I didn't get to do anything, then I'd be like, yo, that was kind of an unsuccessful career, right? Like, yeah. I just made music for myself, right? Like, it was just cool. And that might not be unsuccessful to some people. That might be just exactly what they want, right? But bro, I got to tour multiple times. I've toured multiple times. I've made money off of music. I still make money off of music.
Yeah.
I've made so many relationships because of music. I've met so many people because of music. I've been to places I never thought I'd be because of music. So I can't imagine in what world that would be considered unsuccessful. I think it's beyond successful, especially compared to what most people get out of music when they attempt to have a career like this. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. So and to answer your second question, is it over? Nah, man. Right now, like, my main focus is the business that generates the most revenue, which is real estate. So a lot of my focus is there, but my passion is in music, and so I still continue to create music. And I always believe that when you put really good art out there, the right people will find it. And I put music out, and even if I don't put a ton of marketing dollars, there's people listening to it. So it's like the fact that, some people will say, like, oh, you only got 50,000 listens on a record, which is, to me, is good. But if you put 50,000 people into some people, you compare that to like a big artist, right, who's getting 1 million people listen to their music, right? You put 50,000 people in a room, 50,000 individual people listen to my record, bro.
Yeah.
You put them in a room, bro, you can't even count them. You can't even say what up. So that's 50,000 people who are willing to at least entertain my idea.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, it's not over. It's something I continue to do. I mean, we're in my studio now. I just made some records last night, 2 nights ago, that I think are really cool, and we continue to work at it. And I think I'm in, like, next year, I'm gonna shift a little bit more focus to it on the business side, not even just like on because I'm still creative, but like now being able to influx some dollars into it, because to digress a little bit, what kind of threw off the freight train that I felt like I was on towards music was, one, the pandemic, and two, some legal hardships that I went through, right? So again, you listen to the music, you'll understand what I'm talking about. But like, I was like here, and then I've had situations where, like, you make mistakes, and like this is stuff that straightens out your life, and like you fall down, and you're like, now you look at your pockets. I was a guy that, like, at any given moment I could spend 30 grand if I wanted to. Like, I'm not like saying that to overinflux myself, like to like try to big myself up, but like, I never was the type of guy that would spend that kind of money on like stupid things. Like, I wasn't buying a new car, or like I didn't have like the huge jewelry just because I didn't want it. But during that time, there's like there was really nothing I didn't feel like I couldn't get if I wanted to, right? And then there's a moment where my life took a turn where it's like, bro, I could barely afford a fucking $10 sandwich, right? So I had to refigure things out, right?
Yeah.
And then I sold property, got my money back up, and then COVID happens, right? So now I'm thinking about right before COVID happens, I'm thinking about putting shows together again. COVID happens and I'm like, whoa. Like, I knew people who were in the industry, in the event planning industry specifically, who lost money that they couldn't get back. Artists aren't returning back those deposits.
Yeah.
Artists, and then I started talking to other people. Around that time, a lot of rappers started dying, started going to jail.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you think about XXXTentacion, rest in peace, all those folks. Like, I knew people who had deposits on folks like that, right? Who's giving them the money back? They're either dead or in jail, right? So it's like, I didn't think it was that risky before, but then when I started, you get that, they say 25, 26, 27, your brain changes, and you start getting a little bit more responsible, like shit starts connecting the right way. And my risk analyzation sphere started getting a little tighter. I'm like, yo, I'm gonna risk $60,000 to hopefully make it back in 3 months, and hope and pray that this artist that I put the money on is still around and is active and something doesn't happen to him.
Yeah.
Right? Yo, that's risky, especially when I had already started my real estate stuff, where I'm like, yo, I can control. There's stuff in real estate you can't control, but a lot of it I can control. You get what I'm saying? I can control how much money I give to my contractors. I can control my budget to a certain extent. I can control how much I pay for a property.
Yeah.
So when that happened, that kind of and then COVID happened, where people couldn't even do shows for like a year and a half, 2 years, and we had no idea when you could do a show again. It kind of was like, my focus kind of shifted to real estate, and that's kind of where I've been for the last, like, I'd say 3 years, because shows didn't really start happening again until about 21, 22, right? Yeah. So really, since COVID, I've really been mostly focused on that.
So was that when you were already working on the property during COVID, right?
Yeah, right before COVID. So my first property, I actually bought it I bought it in 2017.
Yeah.
My first property. But my focus was still music. I just had bought this property because I had made good money with the Lil Uzi show. And it was money that was sitting in my bank account. So I was like, all right, well, the opportunity came about. My father-in-law was buying real estate as well. And he's been buying real estate for a long time. And he was like, yo, you came into some good money doing the show. I think you should get into real estate. And I started getting interested in that and doing my research. And then lo and behold, a friend of mine was selling a property that he couldn't rehab for 10 grand. And I picked it up and I put 40 grand in it. And I did that was the first time I had done a BRRRR, because I had $50,000 invested. I got a appraisal done. They said it was worth $90,000 at the time. So I pulled my $50,000 right back out. I was like, yo, this is crazy. You giving me, I spent 50 grand, you giving it back to me. I can rent it. And okay, I have a loan, but the money that I'm renting it for, paying the loan, and I'm making a little extra money, and I can buy something else. It just like, it clicked for me, because it was just like, yo, I was getting, they were my plug. Like, the bank suddenly became the plug in my head. That's the way I looked at it. Like, they were just giving me consignment. All right, here's the money. Go do what you do with it and bring it back, and then we're gonna give it to you again. I'm like, what? All right, let's do it. And then the next time I didn't buy another rental for a little while. I was looking at different deals, and I found a property in Shenandoah that I bought for 10. That I also bought for 10 grand. I guess that was my magic number at the time. And when I bought that, I rehabbed it, but I ran out of money because I didn't go to the bank. So I knew how to refinance a rental, but I didn't have the strategy of going to the bank to get rehab loans. So with that 50 grand that I had gotten back from the property, from the rehab loan, I used about 10 and some closing costs, let's say 13,000, to buy this flip in Shenandoah, and then I used my own cash to fix it, but I ran out of cash, right? And then at the same time, I had ran into some hardships. So like, all my reserve cash too had been gone. Like, I was literally wiped. And so I went and got a job, and the job I was still getting my rental money, which was covering my overhead of where I lived, at least. and because I was still renting a property, and then my job I would every check, I had a guy that was working at that property for me, and he would make $600 and my check would be like $670. So I was working to be able to pay for him to do that, to do that and make $70 a little bit on top. You get what I'm saying? So I got him through. My job got me through, and then after my job got me through, I flipped the house and I made some good money on that house. I made like 60 grand. That kind of put me back on my feet a little bit. But then I kept working at a different job. And then COVID happened. COVID strikes and then everything shuts down. And then, yeah. So that's where I was at with things.
So do you feel like COVID was like, when was that moment that you were already doing real estate and everything like that, but your mind shifted like, all right, this is what I'm gonna do right now. This is where I'm going. This is the road. Like, I'm doing the music, but let me just take the detour into real estate real quick, and this is where I'm gonna shift to. When did that shift happen?
So that shift happened after I sold that property. So I had some good money in the bank, and I was looking at real estate that I wanted to buy. I was looking at a ton of deals in the area, all of which I thought were too expensive, but now looking back, they were cheap. That's the game of real estate. It's always expensive when you at the moment, but a few years later, that's the moment you should have bought. But anyway, yeah. I was looking at a lot of property, and I found this 1 4-unit. I found a 4-unit and a 2-unit in Hazleton, and the gentleman was selling the 4-unit for like $160, and in a 2-unit he was selling it for like 120 grand, bro. Stupid cheap. And this is gonna teach you a good lesson of good karma. So I call the gentleman up, and I'm reaching out to him on Facebook. Boom, boom, boom. Message him. And he don't answer. I find him on Zillow, and I call the gentleman up. I'll get on the phone with him. I'm like, yo, like, this property you have here, what are you selling it? Can I come see it? He's like, yo, actually, I'm not selling it anymore. And most people would have just hung up, right? They would just be like, all right, cool, no problem. If you do decide to sell, give me a call, right? I was just curious. I was like, why? Just one little question. I was like, why aren't you selling it anymore? And I think that caught him off guard too. And we started talking, and he started explaining to me like, hey, like, I don't have anyone that manages it over there. The reason I was selling this is because I don't have anyone that manages it over there. And then also I'm trying to buy a building here in New York City. And so I just want to raise some capital. And but the reason I'm not selling it anymore is that building is no longer available. So it doesn't make no sense for me to sell it. So we start talking. I'm like, yo, all right, so if you're keeping it, what's going on with the building? Talk to me a little bit about it. So he's like, yo, I got all the apartments rented for $300, $400. And he bought these properties in 2005. Hardly ever comes to Hazleton. He doesn't have any roots in Hazleton. European gentleman who he bought here because he just looked up on Zillow from New York, and he just found cheap property in Hazleton. So no real connection with the town. When he told me that, I was like, yo, bro, all those apartments should be at $800, this, that, and the third. So I even talked myself even further from being able to buy the deal, because when I got done talking to him, I told him why he's losing money, why he should be making, and his eyes brightened up. He's like, you really? Like, that's how much money is being made out there? I'm like, yeah. And that's why I wanted to buy this from you. And he's like, yo, I'm coming up there tomorrow. Let's have dinner. I'm like, all right, cool. Random stranger. All right, cool. Let's have dinner. So I go meet him, and we have dinner. We talk a long time, and he's asking me about what I've done in real estate. I'm asking him about what he's done in real estate, and lo and behold, he's a millionaire. Like, he's a legit millionaire out of New York City who just happened to have these properties, self-made. And he's like, yo, like, I like you, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like maybe we can do some things in town. And so he was like, yo, here's how I buy real estate. And that's how he started. He started kind of dabbling into the fix and flip using the bank's money. Started dabbling how to buy. So like I said, I was using my own cash to buy property, rehab it, refinance, right? So the BRRRR, right? So he was teaching me he was talking to me about using a fix and flip loan to do the same thing, and then refinance and BRRRR. So now you're using a lot less of your own capital, right? And so he started talking to me, and I got super interested. And then I would call him like once a week, just to touch up with him. And he's like, yo, let's do a deal. And so we started focusing on doing a deal. And after I spoke to him, my mind was like, all right, like I need to make this money. I was still making music, obviously, but everything was shut down. So it's not like we're gonna put music out, but doesn't really matter, right? We're not doing any shows. So that kind of like hunkered me down. And then I started just trying to find some deals, and then we found a deal in Possible together, which we worked it. It wasn't successful. It wasn't a loss, but it wasn't successful. We broke even. And in the midst of that, right when we did that, we obviously built a really good relationship. So the role was we went 50-50. I put in half the money, he put in half the money, but I had to do, and he put his name on a loan. So with these loans, you have to have some experience. If you don't have experience, then the banks won't touch you, right? And I only had that small little fix and flip experience, so it wasn't enough. So he had a ton of experience. So he put his name on a loan. He went 50-50 with me. So that got me in the door with this lending company. And so I learned a lot of how to do the real estate in that way. As I mentioned, the property, we sold it. We didn't really make any money. We really just broke even, which at that point, a break even on real estate is still a loss because you have time invested, right? So you're not counting your own time, your own gas, right? So I feel like I personally lost money, but I gained a ton of experience. And then a month later, in the midst of that, we had purchased another property, and we made $100,000 together, right, on that one. So like when you work with people, it's one thing to talk real estate with people. Like, all right, let's get on the phone, let's talk about plays. But the bond that you create with mentors and people you network with, when you make money together or when you lose money together and you're okay with that, is a different bond. You get what I'm saying? Like, I can call him because he know we've made money together, and now we have a certain amount of trust. I can call him, and if he has $100,000 that I need, that he's able to lend me, he'll lend it to me. You get what I'm saying? Because we built a repertoire of relationship, and I think part of that is being the kind of person that I am. So from the beginning of the conversation, right, when we first talked, I could have lied to him. I could have told him like, yo, you're right, bro. You can't get more than 400. And that probably would have like shifted him like, damn, man, you know what? Fuck it. You know what? You want to buy it? I'm like, yeah, I drove by those. I could have been like, yo, I drove by those property. It's a shit. You get what I'm saying? And he probably would have sold it to me. But it's not in my heart to do people dirty, right? So I told him what it was, and that opened the door for me to make a lot more money than I would have made on those properties, right? So same thing when we were fixing and flipping. Like, I was completely honest with everything. Like somebody else could have probably, like, if you had a ill intent, you could have said, yo, drywall cost me $15,000, but it really only cost you 10, right? Like, I don't do things like that. I'm very transparent. I'm very like honest. And so that opens a lot of doors for me. So in that sense, we did a deal. The first deal didn't work out great, but the second deal worked out phenomenally. It was a home run, right? And then once I saw that, I'm like, yo, this only took me, like, that second deal took me 4 months. Like, yo, I just made X amount of dollars in 4 months, only invested this much. And even if everything would have went wrong, I would have at least walked away and picked up my money. You get what I'm saying? Because there's no way I was going to lose on a property that I bought at that price. And so when that happened, I kind of opened my eyes, and it was like, yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to rack it up. So long-winded, but.
Yeah. So that relationship is still there. It's a strong relationship now.
Yeah, man. I could call him right now. For whatever. I actually manage some of his units here. So now I get paid to manage his units. And it's almost like I own them, right? So like now I get the benefit of not owning them, but still making some money on them, right? Yeah. And I sell him a ton of real estate. When good deals come up, I sell it to him. Now I got we didn't get into this, but I'm also a licensed agent. So I sell him deals. He sends me a tons of referrals. So that relationship has turned over tenfold. And I do the same for him. Like, I help him as much as I can in his situations.
Yeah. So was it about the money, or did you see something deeper in the business? Like, when
it was definitely about the money. I ain't gonna lie to you. Like, that's for the real estate. You talking about for real estate? Yeah, it was 100% about the money, because my passion isn't music. You get what I'm saying? And even if I say it now, like, I enjoy what I do, like with real estate wise. But if I didn't, so there's a clear way to tell you what's passion versus what's income driven, right? So I do have a certain amount of passion for real estate. I love seeing it transform, right? I love taking a property and putting it into work, and I love the busyness that it gives you, right? Like I'm kind of addicted to that, right? I feel like when I'm like when I go on vacation, I'm miserable, bro. I am my wife could tell you, my wife can attest to that. I am miserable on vacation. I can do 2 to 3 days of vacation. Once the 4th, 5th day goes, I'm so used to my phone going gring, 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 gring. I'm like, I get stressed out. And I start finding stupid things to do. So to get back to that, I thrive off the busyness. I thrive off the need to do stuff, right? So I like that aspect of the business. But if I never got paid for music, I would still put on a beat and I rap to it, right? If I never got paid for writing my thoughts, I'd still write my thoughts. I'd still network with people. If I never got paid to talk to people, I'd still talk to people. If you told me that, hey, Vic, you're never gonna get paid for flipping a house, I'm not flipping no damn houses. You get what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, like the core thing about the business is I love it. I enjoy it. I love the people. I love what comes with it.
Yeah.
But it is very important for me to make money in this industry. You get what I'm saying? If I'm not making money in the industry, I'm not staying in the industry. There's no point for me. You get what I'm saying? I know some other folks are different. Like some people thrive off of like, they just like changing communities, and they like to provide affordable housing, which are all great things. I think that's really cool, and that's like your main focus. Aim at you. It's commendable. Yeah. And I do that. But I need to make money to do that. And I'm just being honest.
I get what you mean. So were there people around you that once they saw like you shift from the music was coming out less, there wasn't no shows and everything, were there people around you that were like, oh, you don't do music anymore? Like, is it real estate or anything? Did you feel some sort of like resistance or anything that might have like at some point shifted your mind from like, yo, maybe I love the music, I'm gonna do it, but maybe like, yeah, these people might be right or not. Fuck them. This is my music. I love the music.
I never had nobody. So I think everybody, if people didn't believe in me, they didn't tell me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've never had no one tell me like, yo, you can't make it. You get what I mean? Like, and maybe it's just the supreme confidence that I have in myself too. But I've never had, I'm sure there's doubters. I'm 100% sure there's people that like talk shit. They're like, yo, this guy is like, what is he doing? Like, this shit is whack. There's tons of people probably that think the music is whack. Yeah. There's probably tons of people who like, yo, he's wasting his time, wasting his money, whatever thing. But it's never been said to me, right? So 99% of the people that I've ran into like have been very supportive of the music. Same thing with the real estate. But I will say a story with the real estate. When I bought my first property, again, I bought it for 10 grand, and that reflects the situation the property was in. The first person I went to was my grandfather. He's amongst the 5 most important people in my life. So my grandfather is like the person I talk to about pretty much anything. You know what I mean? Anything that I got going on, like I know I can go there and like eventually, like I'll talk to him about it, whether he has a solution or not. He's open ears, and it's like, all right. When I bought that first property, so the first person I went to go talk to was him, and I took him to the property. I actually have it on video with not him saying this, but him walking the property with me. It was the first day I took him. I'm like, I was in a tank top just like this. I got my freaking construction glasses. I don't know what I thought I was gonna do in there because I didn't have any knowledge of anything, right? But I bought some tools. I went to Lowe's. I bought hammers. I didn't own a hammer. I didn't own a drill. I didn't own anything. So I bought all those things, and I bought a pata cabra. I don't know how to say it in English. And I'm like, yo, I'm gonna start breaking shit down. I'm gonna start breaking the property apart. What is it called? I'm gonna start demoing. I'm gonna go start demoing. And when we got there, he looked around and he looked at me. He was like, "This is the biggest mistake of your life." I'll never forget it. He was like, yo, this is the biggest mistake in your life.
And that was your first flip, right?
And this was my first property ever.
Yeah.
Ever. So he's like, I don't know why you did this. This is like, you're not gonna recover from this mistake. And it wasn't to discourage me. Because he truly loves me, right? Like, it's my grandfather. He sees me as a son. I'm basically a son. And he was just fearful. He was just scared. And I think that a lot of people, they live with that kind of fear. And that's what, it's not that they purposely don't want to progress in life. It's just, it's a scary thing. I don't realize it, but I have balls, bro. Like, it's natural to me. I'm just like, yo, I'm just gonna do this, right? The same way I spent $70,000 to do a show. He didn't know how much I spent on that. I can imagine he probably would have told me the same thing if I told him that, right? Yeah. I told anybody I spent $70,000 to put together a rap show. They think I lost my mind. The people at the theater thought I was losing my mind. You get what I'm saying? They're like, yo, you're crazy for doing this shit. My friends around me was like, yo, you sure? Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, but I don't think that way. So I'm like, I come up with the idea. I'm like, what can I do to make it happen? All right, cool. Boom. Same thing with the real estate. I came up, I wanted to buy it, looked at it, I was like, all right, I can make this happen. Boom. Most people would think would be like, it's insane. I did it. Years later, it's successful. That's like, it's a treasure property, right? Like, I bought it so cheap that I've refinanced it twice. I've made money on it twice. It still rents, it cash flows. It sits there good. It doesn't bother me. I rehabbed the whole high thing. So knock on wood, I haven't had any major renovations that I've had to do, or rehabs or fixes that I've had to do in the last few years. The worst thing I had was like some squirrels that were getting in the attic, but whatever. And I've had great tenants, the same tenants since I got them in there. They've been there for the last 7 years, and I've raised their rent consistently, and they've been great. And we talk about it now, and he says, yo, he bring it up all the time. He's like, yo, I told you this was the worst. I was so scared for you. He's like, but look at you now. And I think that you have to take those risks initially to be able to grow. Like, by any means did that property make me rich? It didn't do any of that for me, right? It did make me some money, but it didn't completely change my life in the normal sense of the phrase change your life. But it did change my life because it allowed me to get into that mindset and understand how to do real estate. Initially, how do I get my money there? Like, it just opened my mind to a new world, right? And it showed me that if I stick to something like this, I can make this successful. So I think I had more doubters in real estate than I had in music, right? I think more people were disappointed that I didn't put out more music, and they're like, yo, come on, man. Like, I think that I'm not saying the eagerness for music isn't there today as much as it was then, right? From the people who were listening, but definitely when my focus shifted to real estate, I would get messages all the time like, yo, when's this dropping? When's this dropping? When's this dropping? So to answer your question, I can't really say I've had doubters on the music side. I had my one doubter on the real estate side and my grandfather, but it wasn't even on no hating shit. And maybe another way of looking at it is sometimes I'm so laser focused. I don't see as many people. I don't interact with a lot of people, first of all. Like, my interactions are limited to like the network of the folks that I need to interact with, to build with. And then like, I know this sounds cliche, like, I make new friends. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm totally okay with making new friends, right? But I already have my core friends. You get what I'm saying? Like, the people that are gonna be at my wedding already exist. And there might be a few people that get added. Life is crazy, right? So I'm not actively like looking outside for agreements or actively looking at outside for approval is the word, or disapproval or compliments or anything like that. So what that means for me is I really don't see the hate. You get what I'm saying? If it exists, I don't see it as much as other people probably would.
Yeah.
So
it's understandable. Was that the first flip? Was that the one that you ran out of money and started driving for Amazon that you mentioned? And
the first flip.
Yeah. Was that, how did that treat you mentally? Like, you were set, you were laser focused on the goal and everything like that. It was your first flip, so you were obviously a student to the game. You didn't know what you were doing, so everything that was coming towards you brand new. How did that go from you were on tour, getting paid for doing shows, to now you trying to dive into this new pool that you ain't never swam in or nothing like that? But shit, you got to go to Amazon now and stuff and work a delivery job to get that money.
Yeah, man. So to be clear, just so that's not the one that my grandfather said that he was like, yo, you made a mistake. The one that I made, that one was a complete success. It was my first flip, so that the viewers understand it, because sometimes it can get tricky.
Yeah.
So my first rental was the one that I refinanced. Everything went well. My first flip was that Shenandoah property, and bro, it was demoralizing in a sense where I just spoke earlier about me having enough. I went to Turks and Caicos before Turks and Caicos was a thing.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Like before, like Drake rapped about Turks and Caicos, and like I vividly remember me and my boy went to Turks and Caicos, and Bernice Burgos was walking by. You know what I'm saying? Like I've been around celebrities. We've been like had money, like, and then to not have money, right? To not be able to do those things, and not only to not be able to have that kind of fun and do whatever you want, and to then have to go drive. You know what I'm saying? Like I had to swallow a little bit of my pride, bro. I hadn't worked since I was 20. I hadn't had a job and since I was 20 years old. My last job was Foot Locker. You get what I'm saying? And I left Foot Locker really in a really good position, right? So I had to go back and I had to be like, yo, like, well, I'm not going to drown and I'm not going to go back to what I was doing because it got me here in the first place, right? So I got to figure it out. And so it was, first of all, it was a new pool because I hadn't had a job in a long time. So getting a job was like, oh shit, like I got to get somewhere at a certain time. I got to go listen to this boss. But then I had to work and give all my money to someone who was working at my property. Yeah. So now I had to spend all this time every day, bro, and still be broke. So that in itself is like, but what did that teach me? Delayed gratification, right? Because I could have easily said, you know what, screw this property. I'm just gonna get to it when I get to it. I still want to live the lifestyle that I had, or at least pretend to live the lifestyle that I had. I want to take this money from that I make from work, and I want to just enjoy it, or spend it on stuff, spend it on clothes, do whatever that I needed. Like, and I could have done that, but I chose to delay anything I wanted, stop buying anything that I needed for myself, like that wasn't absolutely necessary. Really sit down and budget, hunker down, and take that money and invest it. That's what, every dollar that I had was basically being reinvested, unless it was needed to pay for my overhead. And that teaches you a different type of mindset. That teaches you that if you do those kind of things, your result at the end is going to be way bigger than if you. I made way more money flipping that property than I did driving for Amazon. You get what I'm saying? And I say that to say, if I would have spent all the money I was making for driving for Amazon because I needed that gratification then, I would have never made all that money. You get what I'm saying? So it's like sometimes you gotta just say, hey man, it's time to grind. And that taught me so I had the mindset of grinding in a different way. This taught me like, all right, like I'm gonna do what I gotta do to make shit happen no matter what. You get what I'm saying? And I wanna do it the right way this time.
Yeah. Did you feel like any of those nights, like while you were grinding to make that money for the real estate, like, yo, maybe this ain't for me? Like,
nah, I ain't think that.
You ever pop up in your head where it was like, yo, like, you see how you were saying you working to pay another man to work on your property.
Yeah.
At one point, what were those days? What was going through your head when you were driving and thinking, like, anything ever hit you? Like, was it always, I'm gonna get it done no matter what? Or did at one point did you ever sit there like, yo, maybe I'm gonna doubt myself? I
didn't doubt myself because I knew there was a payout, bro. Like in my head, there was no way I was not. At the very worst, let's say I finish this property, right? I wanted 100 grand for it, right? If I sold it for 70, I still made money, and at least I got my money back. You get what I'm saying? So in my head, it wasn't like, oh man, like doubt, like, oh, I'm not gonna get this. It was like, all right, I gotta get some money back. Like, I'm gonna at least get a nice check, even if I'm getting my fifth. Because remember, at that point, I told you I took the refinance money to work on that house. So I had 50 grand of my own money in there, just sitting there parked. So I was like, yo, worst case scenario, I can sell it for 50, right? The worst case scenario. And I'm gonna at least get my money back, and I can continue to work here. It's not the worst thing in the world. It sucks that I'm working here and I'm paying somebody, right? But if everything fails and I can get my 50 grand, if I can get my 50 grand back and continue to work here, I have a really nice nest egg. Like, there's not too many people at that age who believe it or not, have 50 grand in the bank. You get what I'm saying? So it's like, that's a significant amount of money, and I can take that and do something else with it, right? And figure it out. But so the way I thought about it is like, all right, like, I was always just thinking like, yo, I just gotta keep going to get this money back. Like, I gotta get this money back. I gotta go get it. I gotta finish this thing so I can sell this thing. It was never like, oh man, I'm not gonna sell this thing. I knew I was gonna sell it. Yeah. So that was my mindset.
All right. So how do you know the difference between like a setback and maybe a time to pivot? How do you determine, like, even when you're going into a deal or in the midst of a deal, how do you know, like, oh, this is about to be a setback, or hey, let's pivot, let's make that right turn right now?
So I think that those decisions, especially in real estate, have to happen before you actually buy a deal. I think once you're in a deal, it's very difficult to pivot. Like you can make different decisions on what you're gonna do with or how you're gonna do the real estate, but it's really, you're in it. It's hard to say, like, it's hard to turn around, bro. Like, you're in it. You get what I'm saying? You jumped in a 10-foot pool or a 100-foot pool, bro. You like the pivot. What is the pivot? Bankruptcy, right?
Yeah.
Like, you get what I'm saying? So in real estate, it's hard to, like, life. It depends on how you're asking me the question. You're talking about like life pivots is different, but like deal pivots, it's like I try to make those decisions like, all right, what I'm gonna do with this deal at the beginning. And so the main thing I look for in real estate, right, is options. So when I look at real estate, I can't just say, yo, this is only gonna be a fix and flip. If it's only gonna be a fix and flip, unless it's a complete home run deal where I have so much equity that I can't lose, I don't take it. So part of the way I work, I have that strategy is I don't like to be in deals where I'm beyond 70% of the ARV, which means the after repair value when I include the purchase and the rehab. Why is it 70%? And I like to be under that, but 70% is like my max threshold. Unless I'm gonna get super creative, and we could talk about that in a different segment or a different time, because I haven't done this. That's the creative stuff that I can talk about later, but it's stuff that I have in my mind. But the basics is this. If I'm 70% ARV on a deal, that allows me to refinance the property with a bank and collect my money back. Why? Because banks usually like to extend credit up to 70% of the appraised value, right? So on the worst case scenario, 70%, right? Now, on a sales basis, if I'm selling the house, if I'm at 70%, then I'm gonna make a 30% profit, right? So to make the numbers easy, right? If I'm with purchase and rehab, if I can fix the house and buy the house at $70,000 and it's worth 100, then I made 30 grand, right? When I sell it. If I can't sell it because, let's say, the market takes some type of downturn or whatever, or like there's just not interested buyers, then I just refinance the property and I can get a renter in there.
Yeah.
But if I exceed that threshold, right? So like, let's say I'm at 80%. Well, if the market takes a 10% dive, then I only have a 10% profit. right? Where in the other scenario, if the market takes a 10% dive, I still have a 20% profit, which is still not bad. I'm still doing better than supermarkets, right? So, and even if I got to refinance it, if it takes a 10% market, yeah, sure, I got to keep 10% of my money in there, but still I get majority of my money back, right? So same thing with the other scenario. So that's the decisions that I make at the beginning, which allow me not to have to completely pivot. So then when do I pivot in deals? So sometimes in deals, I make sure I have those options. So if I intend to rent a house, and this is a perfect scenario, property that I have right now, where I rehab the whole property. We can go into the numbers in a different time, but I rehab the whole property. And for clarity, I'll pause here. The reason I want to go over the numbers at a different time is because it's an active deal. And if I go to sell it and, do things with the property, I don't want people to be able to reference this video and then, try to...
No, that's understandable.
So I got to be clear. We can talk about it after. Once I get it on the market and sold it, I don't mind being transparent about the numbers on this one. But the property I'm currently working on right now, I have a ton of money in it, right? But I still bought it right. And so I could technically, my intention was to rent it, but I have too much in it, and I could technically refinance it and probably pull out that money that I have in it. But because of how much I have in it and how much it wasn't what I expected, I'm probably going to sell it. But had I not done that number where it allowed me to sell it at a profit, I'd be under. You get what I'm saying? Had I not followed that rule. So I'm still following that rule even when it didn't go as expected.
Yeah. All right. That's dope. So what's the biggest misconception you think people get from you and like your real estate journey and you going from the music to real estate and doing your deals? What do you think the biggest misconception people get from that?
I don't know really, bro, and I really don't care.
Yeah.
Like that's the stuff like that. Like going back to what I said, like I have my people. That's what I care about. I have kids now. Like I'm too busy with my kids, bro, and trying to get this money, and it's like getting these deals done that like I don't even know what people think about me, bro.
Yeah.
I don't know. And it's like I don't know what the misconception would be. Maybe you could bring it to me. Maybe people that have things and I could be like, yeah, I can see why and tell you why that's not true or why it might be true. But like what I mean, and I don't mean it's what I'll go back to when I said I don't care. It's not that, it's not in a cocky way. It's just like I'm too busy to care, bro. You get what I'm saying? Like if I care about those things, then that's brain power that I can't use on everything else, bro. I'm trying to make music. I'm trying to do this, bro. It's not on a cocky way. It's not like, yo, I don't care what people think. And people, because you have to care to a certain extent. Like especially when you're making music, you want to put it out. You want to make cool things, right? But yeah. if I did spend my time caring about stuff like that, bro, like I'd get nothing done.
You're right. You're right. So what do you consider harder, the hustle or having patience?
Patience, bro. Patience is definitely the harder thing because hustle is just about getting up and going, bro.
You think everybody can do it?
I don't think everybody can do it. But again, my threshold and my mindset, I already know I'm different. Why? Because we talked about it before. People not taking that type of money and investing.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Like, it's scary. It's a scary thing. Like I told you when my grandfather said it, yo, this is the worst thing you did. It's a scary thing. So I already know I'm built different.
Yeah.
But I think having patience is a phenomenal trait. You get what I'm saying? And it's something that I'm currently working on. Because sometimes when you don't have patience, you start to lack gratitude. And the reason I say that is because when you want something, when you don't have patience because you want things to happen right now, you fail to see all the things that you've already done and accomplished. And I feel like because I'm so driven and I'm hustling all the time, I tend to lack gratitude in that sense. Not saying that I don't appreciate the things that have happened to me and how blessed I've been to acquire the things that I've been able to acquire, but it's not often that I sit back and say, yo, thank you, I'm blessed. Why? Because I'm always I'm always chasing more, and I'm impatient of those things coming to me. Like, I'm like, damn, I need that to happen, bro. Like, a perfect example, I just got off the phone working with on a deal with someone, and I kind of almost blacked. I was like, because they needed to get an appraisal out, and I'm like, yo, like, it's been a week. In their mind, a week is no time. In my mind, it's like, that should have happened yesterday.
Yeah.
So for me, because I'm so like, my mind is, patience is definitely something that's harder for me, and it's something that I'm actively working on.
And why do you feel like what are you chasing? Exactly. Why do you feel like your mind's constantly, like, you're moving at a fast pace, right? Time's the most valuable currency that you can't buy in. It is currency because time is valuable.
Right.
And time costs money. You get paid to work. You get paid when you use people's time. So you're always moving so fast. Why do you feel like, what are you chasing?
I just want to get things done.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Like it's not like I can't say I'm chasing anything specifically life goal wise. It's just whenever I'm in these projects or I'm doing things, I just want things to get done. So that's what I'm chasing. Just things to get finished. I mean, there's certain levels of success that we're all trying to attain. And I think that when I get projects done, I get closer to that level of success. So if you ask me what I'm chasing, I just want to be very, very comfortable, have a certain amount of income coming in for myself that allows me to provide for my family. And when I started real estate, one of the philosophies that I kept in my mind was like, yo, when I have kids, I want to be able to go to every football game, every event, and not miss anything. Not feel like not have to ask somebody permission to go to work. I mean, to miss work, to go attend something, go to every appointment. Like, that was on my mind. And one thing folks have to be careful about, including myself, is like, when you build your own business, you become a slave to that business as well. So everything you said you didn't want from having a job, all of a sudden starts happening in your own business, right? I give you a clear example. My family went out to Texas last week. I didn't go to Texas. Why didn't I go to Texas? Because I was building here. I was here. But the whole reason that I started doing this journey was so that I wouldn't miss moments like going to Texas, right? So you have to be careful to not be a slave to your own success and to your own business. And I'm a victim of it too. You get what I'm saying? So that's why I'm learning. That's part of the things that I wanna work on myself.
So with no timeline set, what does the end goal look like for you?
What does the end goal look like for me? Bro, I mean, I guess the end goal for everybody is ending up in a box or fucking cremated, right?
Yeah.
but I guess I just what I want to have a good relationship with my children when I'm old. I want to set them up to a certain degree. I don't expect to hand them up. I don't expect to hand them their entire life. That's not I know some people are chasing that. Some people some people's mindset of legacy is like, yo, their kid continues to build the business that they built, or just is able to just live off of your last name. I just want to build my goal is mostly to give them a solid foundation, give them some education, so that they can stand on their own 2 feet and not have to start completely from the bottom, right? So I guess the end goal is for me to be comfortable with my wife, be able to travel when we want, when we're older, or now, be able to do all the things that we love to do with our children, and allow them to grow and facilitate their success to a certain degree. So that's what my success looks like. And I used to think, yo, I want to retire at 45. And I think I want to have the ability to retire at 45 if I want to. But I don't think I'll retire, man. I spoke earlier. I love the busyness. Like, it's crazy, it's stressful at times.
Yeah.
But bro, when I'm doing nothing, like, I told my wife, I was like, yo, I'm gonna finish this project and I'm not buying anything more for a year or two. Because I don't need to, right?
Yeah.
And I'm looking at property now. So it's just part of it. It's just fun.
Do you ever get burned out from it or anything like that? Or are you balanced?
I haven't yet. I can't say that it's not gonna happen, but I haven't yet.
Yeah. So you said legacy isn't just about finance, right? When I sent you that questionnaire, you said it's all about what your kids will remember and everything like that. So at this moment now, you have 2 kids. You got your real estate going for you. The music's still there. Is there anything that scares you and anything that excites you at the same time for what's coming next?
When you said that question, I was trying to figure it out. And I guess, you know what, one thing that is a little scary is like, I want to do, I think in the next 2-3 years, I want to do a development project, a big development project. Like I want to build like something like 20, 30 units, 40 units. And what's scary about that is partnering with bigger people who may be able to take advantage of you. You get what I'm saying? So it's like I got my ways. Obviously I'm gonna try to protect myself as much as possible. And it's not. You never partner with folks that you feel like you can't trust. But when you're dealing with that kind of money, when you're dealing with those kind of situations, it can be a different beast. And so I do have partners lined up that I have relationships with, and like I said, it's not that I don't trust them, but when you're starting to do things that are truly generational changing, you talk about building 50 units, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
that's a lot.
That's something that when you're ownership of 50 to 100 units at a time, like that's a lot of money, that's a lot of resources, and it's like being careful that you do things the right way. So what I'm fearful about is making sure that I make the right partnerships in that situation, and 2, making sure that that I execute my portions of whatever is expected of me. And I don't even know what that is yet, right?
Yeah.
Like we're just having a candid conversation of what I want to do in the next few years, and I don't know what role I'd play in that, but I'd be nervous of not executing. I'm very confident that I can execute in anything that I do, but the fear of not executing on a project of that level does linger.
Yeah. Alright. That sounds dope. Everything about it, man, the journey like itself sounds crazy, man. Like
Yeah.
you really got to think back to it. You're 30, you said 32, right?
32 now, man.
32. And you think, you look at your life probably like a movie. Like when you sit back, you say you don't take too many times to sit back and like actually think about what you accomplished, but when you sit back and think about it, you can sit there and reflect on it, replay it and everything, and really think back to 10, maybe 15 years ago, right? You that young kid right now, and he called you, the one in the studio. He's probably in the studio right now recording, right? Or he's probably taking your grandfather to that first flip that you bought, and you listening to that. What's like one thing you want him to hear right now? And letting it go with that. He calls you up, young Vic. Yo, what up?
I'd be like, I'd say don't be afraid of change and continue to roll with the punches. That's, you know what I mean? Because I wouldn't say anything that would sway any. I like the way my life has gone. You know, I love the way my life has gone. I wouldn't change things in the past. So I'd just be like, yo, I tell him like, just stay the course, man. Just stay the course. Keep that ambition that you have alive, which is still alive now. Keep that ambition you have alive, and keep that belief in yourself alive. And yeah, man, that's kind of conversation. Now, if you ask me, like looking back, not even having a conversation, like just like looking back, I'm like, bro, you don't realize how many times I should be dead at jail or like in a whole different situation. So I'd also tell him like, yo, you're an extremely lucky kid, bro. You're an extremely lucky kid that just fell into great circumstances.
You consider yourself lucky to be in the position where you are in life?
Yeah, bro. There's no if, ands, or but. I'm extremely lucky, bro, because it takes. So luck is a combination of being in the right place, right time, and doing some of the right things, and being on your grind for whatever you are doing. Right. It's a combination of a lot of things. But I'm not here without luck, bro. I'm not here without. Think about this. That conversation I had with that gentleman who's now one of my mentors, right? He had to be in the right mood for me to call him, for him to want to answer that question why. That's lucky for me, bro. If somebody had broken his window when I called him that day, like 10 minutes before, he would have been like, why? Like, I don't got time to talk to you. Bro, that's luck. That's luck in itself. I had to do things to have that conversation. Of course, there were things that I had to do, but there are certain things that you can't account for, bro. That just, the universe just works that way for you, bro. It's just right place, right time, bro. I could have asked that gentleman who was doing the show at the baby, like, yo, I got the money to do this. I want to do that. He would be like, yo, I'm not helping nobody. I'm focused on my own thing. It's luck. It's not luck that I went to go talk to him, but it's luck that he decided to have the conversation with me. He had a great day that day, probably.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So it's luck, it's blessings. Luck, blessings, the same thing, right? Like God, luck, blessings. That's all like wrapped into one. There's a million things that were completely out of my control that got me here. You get what I'm saying? Did I walk? Did I pick up my suitcase, packed it up, and take steps? Of course I did. I wasn't staying in my house. But did things happen that allowed the ground to open up and make pavement for me to walk through that I couldn't control? Of course. So.
Yeah. Definitely sounds like a journey, man. So remember, we're gonna come back hopefully 2-3 years from now, and we're gonna revisit so far where you're at. So
sure.
Leading up to the age of 32, you got a nice, successful real estate portfolio. 2 kids. The year's 2025. Ask your future self a question.
Yo, how my kids doing and how many we got? How many kids we got? How are they doing? Are they happy? Are you happy? And did you build those units? I'm curious. I want to know, were you able to secure the bag, work with the right people to put up 50 units? And if you did build it, did you enjoy doing it? Was it worth it? Was it successful? And are you retired? I don't know.
You gonna be answering this in a couple years, man.
See what happens, man. Let's see what happens.
So, yo, it was definitely a dope talk, man. The journey is amazing, man. I really hope one day this journey gets turned into like a movie or something like that. Or a book.
Maybe a book. I don't know about a movie, but maybe a book.
It's always inspirational, man, because at the end of the day, there's other people that look for inspiration, but not only that, every 100 years, somebody's constantly rewriting their own stories and rewriting history and stuff like that. And whether you like it or not, somebody's always going to be looking at that. Somebody's always going to be there watching it, or somebody's always going to take something from it. And that's what leads to the growth in humanity. That leads, because somebody somewhere, it don't matter who it is, whether it gets 10 views or a million views, somebody's going to see this and they might click something in their head. And then what starts? Their journey now. Their journey in life starts, and then the next chapter in life is being written. Just because they saw your story and your journey.
Right.
So It was definitely a dope conversation. Always a dope conversation when we get together, man. So I hope to come back and revisit this in a couple years, and we're gonna finish it off with this, man. This is the journey. My name's Angel Diaz Jr. And we got Victor Luna here, the musician, real estate investor, the father, and the man himself, the inspiration himself.
Bless, man. I appreciate y'all. Peace.
We all end it here. This is